No, I think we should keep it simple, like in After Effects. My little daughter's synthesizer. No, I don't want to risk a copyright infringement. Let me compose something that sounds similar. None other than band member Guy Manuel de Omem Cristo, I hope I pronounced it correctly, used the font from the movie poster's title, Thief, as a basis to create the now famous Daft Punk logo. For the Discovery album, still life photographer Mitchell Feinberg recreated the logo with real liquid metal, which in return I'm gonna recreate and animate in After Effects. Without any plugins. We could copy the logo pixel perfectly, but that would end up in like color by numbers.
You're wrong. Actually, color by numbers is better. After Effects is bad for your eyes.
And it wouldn't give you any significant learning benefits. Instead, we're gonna use straightforward techniques to create a chrome or quicksilver material, a liquid logo reveal, and colorful light rays. Procedurally, which means that you can change the values of the parameters at any time to create your own unique look. You can even easily replace the Daft Punk logo and create something especially for a client project. Now, let's jump right into After Effects. I just created a composition 1920 by 1080 pixels and 250 frames that I simply named Daft Punk Animation. And I already inserted a vector file of the Daft Punk logo into it. You can Google Daft Punk logo vector, which leads you to different sites where you can download the vector logo for free. And there is another layer below of the original Discovery album cover as a reference. For simplicity's sake, we're gonna ignore these splotches. First, you have to separate all connected shapes into their own layers. One method is to grab the pen tool, mask the first letter, duplicate the layer, and adjust the mask for the following shapes. But let's undo this, because I want to show you my preferred method. You can now right-click on the layer and select Create Shapes from Vector Layer. This creates a new layer with multiple native shape layers. The original vector layer was just toggled off. Because we don't need it anymore, you can delete it. Change the fill color to mid-gray, which is 80-80-80 in hexadecimals. This neutral gray tone is the starting point to later create the liquid metal look. Then duplicate the shape layer 5 times. Open up the first layer, go into Content, and toggle off every shape layer group except of group 1, which contains the first shape. In the next shape layer, toggle off every shape layer group except of group 2. Repeat this for the remaining groups in the following shape layers. After it's done, you can click on the solo checkboxes to check if you haven't missed any shape. Before we continue, let's change the color label of the layers to fuchsia, which, by the way, is my favorite color label to keep things organized, because we're gonna have to deal with a lot of layers later in this tutorial. To make sure that no shape layer is selected, click somewhere into an empty space. This is necessary to create a separate shape layer, otherwise you would draw a new path within the selected shape layer. Now, grab the pen tool again, make sure that Roto Bezier is checked and draw a path along the first shape. Delete Fill, because we don't need it. Maybe you guessed it already, we're gonna use this stroke to make a write-on effect. I'll show you. Add a Trim Paths modifier, open it up, decrease the end attribute to 0 and set a keyframe at the very beginning of the timeline by clicking on this stopwatch. Then go to frame 100 and increase the end attribute, which sets another keyframe automatically. As you can see, the stroke is growing nicely. Increase the value until you reach 100%. Select the shape layer below and set Drag Matte to Alpha Matte. Let's hit play to see how the letter D is revealed. If the shape is not completely covered by the stroke, you can adjust the path or increase the stroke width. So far, so good. But it looks quite mechanical. We want it to look more organic. Make the stroke visible again, open up the stroke parameters, go into Taper, set lined cap to round cap, and start length to 70%. And when you toggle off the stroke again, you can see that the reveal looks better now. To make it look more liquid, open up Wave, increase amount to 60 and wavelength to 130. But of course you can try other values if you want. This looks nice, but the reveal is not complete yet. We have to reverse the organic shape to reveal the whole D shape. Go to frame 0, set a stroke width keyframe, maybe change the stroke width to 45, set a keyframe for taper, start length, and another one for wave amount. Then put the playhead to frame 150, set wave amount to 0, start length to 1. I'm not gonna zero it because it'll abruptly jump to the round cap, and finally increase the stroke width back to 80 until the shape gets completely uncovered. Let's hit play. Looks good. Now you can duplicate the stroke layer and place it above the next logo shape layer. Select the path and adjust it. If necessary, add new vertices. When you have to deal with complex shapes, like here, you sometimes need an additional path. You can simply duplicate the path and adjust it. Here is a tip. Toggle off the other path so you don't modify it accidentally. And when there are vertices left over, just delete them. Again, adjust the path and the stroke width at frame 150 if the shape is still not completely uncovered. In the Daft Punk logo shape layer below, set track matte to alpha matte. Very nice. Now apply this technique to the other shapes. And to add more complexity into the animation, you can stagger the layers, in my case by 10 frames. Make sure that you shift the matte layer together with its according shape layer. That looks like a smooth organic reveal. Now let's create the chromatic look. Select all layers except of the reference layer, right-click and pre-compose them. Let's call the pre-composition Basic Logo Reveal. The secret to achieve a metallic look is, well, paradoxically, the CC glass effect. Apply it to the layer and… not impressive. When we take a closer look at the original image, we can see that the logo is lit by two light sources, one probably coming from here and another one coming from this side. So go to Layer, New, and Light. Make sure that the light type is set to point and hit OK. You can't see any effect yet. Open the CC Glass effect, Light, and set using two AE lights. And when we move the light source to the left, put it somewhere in -Z space to position it in front of the logo, you can see how it affects the lighting. But the logo's material is far from chrome yet. That's why we're gonna open Surface in the CC Glass effect, change height to 5, open Shading and set Ambient and Diffuse to 0 and Specular to 100. Because the logo is still dark, double-click on the light layer and double the intensity to 200%. To brighten up the left side, duplicate the light and place it somewhere here. Hit play. Now, that looks metallic. There is some backlighting here on the edge of the original logo. To achieve this, go to Layer, Layer Styles and select Bevel and Emboss. This makes the chrome reflections more detailed. Now, let's create the colorful glow behind the logo. Grab the basic logo reveal pre-composition and drag it into the main composition. Look for the gradient ramp effect, apply it to the layer and move the start of ramp point to the upper left and end of ramp point to the bottom right to get a nice diagonal ramp. Now apply a colorama effect to the layer and you'll get a full color spectrum remapped to the black and white gradient. Put this layer below the chrome layer, apply a CC vector blur effect to it, set type to direction fading, increase the amount to like 30 and change the angle offset to like -45. Now we have a nice colorful glow. But in the original image, the glow is not even. You have spots where the glow seems to break out. To create this, duplicate the spectrum glow layer and solo this layer for the moment. Delete the vector blur effect and apply a turbulent noise effect to it. Increase the contrast to 3000 and brightness to -350. Set blending mode to multiply to get back the color. Then apply a CC radial blur effect to it. Set type to fading zoom and amount to 2 and reposition the center to the top left. I place the center very far from the logo to get almost parallel rays. Set the blending mode to add and uncheck solo. To make the rays pop, decrease the opacity of the glow layer below to like 40%. Now we can see the light rays breaking out a bit better. And we get a little side effect, because it also created a little shadow with a CC radial blur effect. We could make the animation a bit more interesting if we animated the light streaks. Select the layer above. In the turbulent noise effect, you can animate the evolution. Go to frame 0 and click on the stopwatch to set a keyframe. Go to the composition's last frame and set a higher evolution value, which sets another keyframe automatically. The higher the value, the faster the animation. Now the light streaks are somewhat shimmering. The starting point of the light rays could be a bit stronger. In the original image, we can see that the exit points of the rays are super bright. To achieve something like this, duplicate the light rays layer, decrease the radial blur amount to 0,4 and set the blending mode to none in the turbulent noise effect. That looks crispier. I could stop here because the mission is accomplished. We recreated and revealed the Daft Punk logo of the Discovery album. But let's go the extra mile, or the extra kilometer here in Europe. Duplicate the layer of the color spectrum gradient, place it above all other layers. Oh, interesting look. Delete the vector blur and increase the opacity back to 100%. Insert a fresh basic logo reveal pre-composition on top of it and shift the layer by 5 frames. We can now use the delayed logo reveal to subtract it from the layer below to have just the tip of the color gradient left over. To do this, set track matte to alpha invert on the layer below and pre-compose both layers. Let's name it Tip Glow. Apply a fast box blur effect to it, set the blur radius to 5 and set blending mode to overlay. To enhance the glow, you can duplicate the pre-comp, increase the blur radius to 35 and change blending mode to add. Okay, here is one very last thing to add even more realism to it, because I think that the inner chrome reflections look a bit too flat and boring, especially during the animation. Create a new solid below the tip glow layers, apply a turbulent noise effect to it, set fractal type to turbulent sharp, transform scale to 200 and complexity to 2. At frame 0, set an offset turbulence keyframe, go to the last keyframe and change the X position to 1500. Then apply a turbulent displace effect to the layer, set amount to 100, go to frame 0 and set an evolution keyframe. Then go to frame 250 and change evolution to 360. Again, a keyframe is set automatically. Apply a fast box blur effect to it and change blur radius to 5. Now look for the CC Blobbylize effect, drag it below the fast box blur effect, set the blob layer to one of the basic logo reveal compositions, blobbiness property to alpha, and light using 2 AE lights. Now look at this. We have just created some complex looking reflections. Because the Blobbylize effect deformed the edges a bit, drag a new basic logo reveal composition above the solid layer and set Drag Matte to Alpha Matte. The complex reflections make sense when the liquid chrome spreads out, but when the logo is completely revealed, we have to get back to the original reflections. That's why we're gonna go to frame 100, set an opacity keyframe, go to frame 200 and decrease the opacity to 0. That's it, guys. I hope you found this tutorial useful. If so, please like my video, subscribe to my channel, and turn on the bell notification to get informed about new tutorials. See you next time.